Okay, take it away, Covita.
So we're going to take just a minute before we say the prayers to think about equanimity. Equanimity as the, in a way, the prerequisite to entering the Mahayana path. I mean, depending on which things you read. I'll say something, I want to share something that I've experienced myself really only recently, having to do with equanimity. Because we can't, well, and I'll just leave it here in that to approach other sentient beings in particular, and perhaps especially the ones who confound you, cannot understand why they hold the positions, the beliefs, and engage in the actions that are completely out of alignment with your worldview. So equanimity is the prerequisite for us as Mahayana practitioners because it takes into account the infinite, beginningless conditioning that each and every mind stream undergoes in its never-ending existence. And this conditioning, as we all know, we know ourselves personally, not only our life story and how we came upon the beliefs that we have, or hold, and all the things that compose the moment we're in right now that hold us up in the belief and the views that we have. And this is the case for every single sentient being. Not being omniscient, we are told through the Dharma that our view, no matter how insightful we believe it is, that at least in most ways, it is, purely speaking, incorrect. We are, by default, according to Buddha Dharma, we are by default mistaken with regard to our view of things. This is super duper important because without equanimity, we can't say these prayers with authenticity in a sense. As aspiring Buddhas, equanimity is for us like taking the thorn out of the foot of our existence. As long as we have prejudice and think we understand why someone else may be wrong, as long as we believe these things that are ultimately and purely speaking untrue, we will have a thorn in our side or in our foot or a pebble in our shoe. We will not be comfortable. And I'm talking from experience that when one embraces purely for your own sake equanimity, this is hand in glove with renunciation, and it is the opening of the sense of 1,000 million pounds has been lifted off your shoulders. Because no longer are you the arbiter of what's true and not true, and correct and not correct, and wise and stupid, and so forth. You give up carrying this huge burden of feeling that you're always having to judge what's right and wrong. So it's the ultimate act of renunciation in the sense that you let yourself out of the prison of your own paradigm. And you just keep your nose to yourself, as they say. And with that equanimity, it gives you the courage to recognize that your existence is forever. This process, this journey, our existence has no end. And isn't it a terrible thought to think we would carry such a burden of bias, of thinking we know better in perpetuity, and yet putting ourselves into the same cosmos with other sentient beings and dropping our opinions frees us up to be happy, lighthearted, and engage with the life that our karma is presenting to us moment by moment. And if we think of it like we're packing a suitcase for our eternal journey through our eternal existence, we're packing a suitcase and we can only take one carry-on bag for this long, never-ending process. And when you start to think about what you really want to bring with you on this never-ending, perpetual journey of unfolding, we want to be very, very careful about what we pack in that bag in terms of our mind, mental continuum, in terms of our mind stream, in terms of what's really going to serve our happiness and the happiness of other sentient beings. So with that in mind, we will take refuge and generate bodhicitta. And we'll say all these prayers in English today. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. If you don't know what the paramitas are, those are qualities that we are, or states of mind that we are meant to cultivate and abide in. And they are generosity, moral ethics, patience, enthusiasm, concentration, and wisdom. Those are the 6 main ones. Again, I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And just quickly in your mind's eye, visualize that you're surrounded by the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, and that will be our way of recollecting or invoking that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and all the enlightened ones and the unenlightened ones, that we are in the middle of the cosmos. And we say the 7-limb prayer. Within mind, our teachers, the guides, the Dharma, that which is guiding us to unfold our existence in a constructive, positive, and joyful way. So we have great gratitude and say with that in mind, reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. All right, do you want to lead the Manjushri mantra?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the Mangala offering. All right. So we have this beginningless mind stream, and what can we offer to enlightened beings and to all of existence? What can we offer but our purified vision of the cosmos? And so with that understanding that that's really what this is all about, purifying our vision, purifying with equanimity, really. So we say the mandala offering, visualizing the most glorious thing we can in our mind's eye, and using these words to trigger us. Mandala offering: this ground, anointed by perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned by Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine it as a Buddha field and offer it. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Over to you.
Thank you. Before we do recite the Manjushri mantra, which is for, enabling us to understand these very profound teachings, let's go ahead and do a short meditation practice. This is a shamatha meditation practice, and as we said before, the purpose of shamatha meditation is to develop a very focused and flexible mind that's known as single-pointed concentration. It's a calm and continuous state of consciousness that is characterized as being blissful, still, and extremely vivid. Shamatha is known as placement meditation, which is a powerful tool of the mind that enables the mind to maintain and hold in place a very clear, alert, and stable awareness that is free of distraction. We begin by adopting this 7-point posture that we've talked about in previous sessions, and start from the bottom up. So you start with your legs. They're either crossed comfortably, or if that's not comfortable for you, you can sit in a straight back chair with a cushion and then your legs on the floor, your knees bent and your feet on the floor. The hands can be resting in the lap in this mudra of union of compassion and wisdom. The left represents wisdom, the right represents compassion, and compassion is resting in wisdom. So the right hand is resting in the left hand. The wisdom supports that compassion. And then the two thumbs are touching, which shows that they're connected. And this, you hold this in your lap, just slightly below the navel. If that for some reason is not comfortable for you, you can also just put both hands on your knees. If that's a more stable position for you, if you like that better, you can do that as well. It's perfectly acceptable. The back then, going to the back, keep your spine straight. Then your shoulders and elbows. The shoulders should be level. The elbows slightly away from the body. The head and the neck are straight, and the chin is slightly tucked in. Keep your face and your mouth relaxed, with the tip of your tongue touching the upper palate, just behind your upper teeth. Your eyes are barely opened and gazing down past the tip of your nose. Let your body be very relaxed and natural. If you get tight in certain areas, take a deep breath and then exhale the tension with the next out breath. Before every meditation session, it's extremely important to cultivate the motivation, our intention. Our intention sets the whole purpose of why we were doing this. So here's an intention it's a intention of bodhicitta, an awakened heart and mind that works for the benefit of all sentient beings. And you could think thoughts something like this. With this meditation practice, may I develop the capacity of my consciousness to maintain clear and focused awareness, that stable compassion and wisdom may be awakened in me for the benefit of all beings. Now we're going to do a breath practice that is suggested by Khentrul Rinpoche, and this is a practice of relaxing into the present moment. And we start with preliminary practice of clearing the breath. So while blocking your left nostril with your right middle finger, breathe deeply through your right nostril. Now block your right nostril with your right thumb. As you slowly exhale through your left nostril, release all of your worries and concerns related to attachment and desire. Repeat this 2 more times. Now, reverse the process. While blocking your right nostril with your left middle finger, breathe deeply through your left nostril. Now block your left nostril with your left thumb. As you slowly exhale through your right nostril, release all your worries and concerns related to anger and fear. Do this 2 more times. Finally, breathe deeply through both nostrils. As you slowly exhale through both nostrils, release all your worries and concerns related to confusion and ignorance. Repeat this 2 more times. Now we go to the main breathing practice suggested by Khentrul Rinpoche. Bring your awareness to the very top of your head. As you breathe out, imagine releasing all of the energy of your breath into that area of your body, relaxing it fully. Now shift your attention downwards, bringing it into the region of your face. Become aware of the tactile sensations in your face. As you breathe out, release all tensions in that area, fully relaxing your face. Slowly make your way down through the body, stopping for a moment at each point. Starting with the neck, make the conscious effort to observe the sensations in that area. Then release all the tension with the out-breath. Then the shoulders. Observe the sensations in that area. Then release all the tension with the out-breath. Throughout this process, maintain a calm yet very alert mind, engaged in the activity and working with whatever presents itself to you. Continuing to make your way down through the body, move to the upper back. Observe the sensations, then release all the tension with the out-breath. Then the chest. The abdomen. The lower back. The groin area. The base of your spine and your seat. The legs. And finally, the feet. When you've finished scanning through your body, rest for a few moments in the sensations produced. Just breathe and observe how you are feeling in the present moment. Okay, well, I'll leave it there. As you can see, it's a great method that Khenpo Rinpoche uses to take your mind and to kind of focus it and keep its attention on something, and at the same time relax your mind and maintain alertness. And it can bring you into a state where you are just abiding in the present moment, which is a really great place to be if you're going to start, analyzing something. So let's move now to.
Gee, there's no other moment I'd rather be in.
There's no other moment we can be in. It's an ever-present now. There's nothing we can do about it. And that's part of our problem is we're always, trying to put the future into the present moment or think about the past in the present moment. But when we're doing that, we're just being in the past in the present moment. It's crazy. So it's something to think about. Before we move on now to talk more about the two truths, let's just do some Manjushri mantras to help us remind us of that we have the wisdom, the potential wisdom to understand all of this. So as we recall, the mantra is Om Ra Pa Tsa Na Di. And we'll repeat this a few times. And then when we get to the last repetition, we'll repeat the syllable D over and over again. D stands for awakening our inner wisdom. It's the same root as
It's not in there.
Buddha and Buddhi.
Sorry about
It
that.
has to do with awakening. And so when we're saying D, we're awakening our inner wisdom. You just listen for now.
Om
Here we go. Om Ra Pa Sa Na Di.
Om Ra Pa Tsa Na. It's 7 syllables. Yeah.
Here we go. Om Ra Pa Tsa Na Di. 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 Omarapatsana di Omarapatsana di Of course, all these syllables, they stand for something, and we've talked quite a bit about this, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And it's all in study guides that you can refer to, and those are all in every email that I send out. That there are links for that information about the mantras and the meanings of the mantras. Alrighty, now we're back to relative truth and ultimate truth. And what we were discussing last time, we were discussing the relationship between relative truth or conventional truth and ultimate truth, that the two truths are one entity, but different isolates. So let's take the example of the book. This book is one entity. And conventionally, this book exists. This book exists conventionally. There's no denying that it exists. We can feel it, touch it, we can look at it. It has a conventional truth nature, and that conventional truth nature is that it is a dependent arising, this book. That this book actually has no independent self-existence of its own. That is its ultimate nature, that it is empty of any independent self-existence. So we've talked about this quite a lot. If we actually analyze this book, we would see that everything from the paper, the ink used on the page, the tiny little symbols in black ink that stand for letters, that stand for sounds, that stand for words, that stand for meanings to us, are all dependently arising. They do not exist independently. And as well, we with our mind designate what a book is, what a book stands for. A book has information. This is all designated by the mind. So the book is an object of designation. If you follow the physical attributes of the book, you will go out to the far reaches of the universe and never stop. Because the book, of course, the pages are made from paper. The paper comes from trees. The trees are part of a cycle of existence that has to do with soil, water, sunshine, carbon dioxide, oxygen. They give off oxygen. We're all part of that because when we take in the oxygen that comes from trees and plants, we give out carbon dioxide, which then allows the plants to photosynthesize the sun, which allows them to create the sugar and the food for themselves. And the process just keeps going over and over, takes you out into the solar system, out into the galaxies, and out into infinity, all in this one conventionally existent, dependently arising item that we call a book. So that is its conventional truth nature. And its ultimate truth is that it has no independent self-existence whatsoever. It's completely lacking in any kind of independent self-existence. So that's what is meant by one entity and two isolates. The two isolates are conventional truth and ultimate truth. The conventional truth of the book and the ultimate truth of the book.
In a way, the conventional truth there's a lot more to discuss.
There's a lot more to discuss because the ultimate truth is simply a lack.
Yeah.
It's simply an emptiness, a lack of independent self-existence. But boy, that's a big one for us because we always throw, even in the way things appear to us, the way things appear to us, they appear as if they sort of independently self-exist, everything. So we're doing that with our sense consciousnesses, our mental consciousness, the way we designate everything, we do it. But however, I'll go back to the book again. The book only exists as a book because we say so. You know, an ant or a fly, or even a cat, doesn't say, that's a book. That's a book about Dharma. That has information in it. We're the ones who do that. From its own side, the book has none of that. None of that. It's completely designated. It is an object of designation of the mind, our mind. Of course, the animals, the flies, they all have their own way of designating things, objects. They do the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. So that's an important point. One entity, two isolates. Geshe Tachi Tsering says that we need to be very clear that conventional truth and ultimate truth are not the same thing. They may be one entity with two isolates, but those two isolates are actually mutually exclusive. Ultimate truth and conventional truth are mutually exclusive, even though they are two isolates of one entity. So we're going to go a little bit into that. Everything making sense so far? Okay, okay.
Yeah, your presentation is very clarifying. I think I just want to point out, or what's hitting me right now, so I'll say it out loud. Cause I usually, what I notice is a lot of times when I'm thinking, other people are thinking too. And that's that, I'm gonna repeat something, but elaborate on the fact that ultimate truth is a very thin razor's edge. Because
Precisely, yes.
because, Venerable Robina always said ultimate truth and relative truth were two, dependent arising, which is how relative truth exists. Dependent arising and emptiness, she would say, are two sides of the same coin. And I think the emptiness, because all we're really saying is, with ultimate truth, is it true, Christopher, that all we're really saying with ultimate truth is other than dependent arising, there is no other way it exists.
Right. Right.
Would you say that the reason that this is such a big deal and that we are taking weeks and months to discuss this, would you say that as human beings, probably any animal that we're familiar with anyway, because of our sense apparatus, our eyes, ears, nose, and so forth, because of the way they function, things seem fixed?
Yeah,
And that's why it's such a problem?
Yeah, it's a problem, as we've talked about before. This goes back to, you could say, even to beginningless time, that there is this what you might call innate self-grasping of an I, that because the I believes or grasps at itself as being some kind of independent, self-existing entity, then the I...
Does that just spring out of self-awareness? Like raw?
That springs out of awareness, and they say that it comes from having a set of aggregates, and those aggregates then, which the aggregates are just exactly like the book, they are dependent arisings. They do have no self existence of their own. However, the consciousness, when it perceives these aggregates, believes that the aggregates belong to the consciousness, especially when you're talking about the body of a being. And we believe it is my body, mine, me, I. And out of that mind comes this sense of I, and a grasping at the I as being very special, being the center of everything. And this is what creates all the problem, all the suffering, all the disputes and the back and forth interaction, everything, all the problems come from this ego self-grasping at the idea of an inherently self-existing I. This is where the problem lies. And so this is what the wisdom teachings are kind of unpacking for us and showing us how things actually do exist. So that's where we're headed. So Yes, things only exist conventionally. They only
So-
exist
Well,
relatively.
yeah, circling back to my sort of initial question, so when all's said and done, we're studying the two truths because we have the wrong idea about
Both of them.
both of them.
We have the wrong idea about both of
And
them.
and it's
We're
causes
mistaken.
us to be reactionary and
Mhm. All the problems in the world,
delusional
from
ways.
everything to everything, are arising because of this mistaken consciousness. So this is what Buddhism is about. Like I've always said, it's always, from the very beginning, the Buddha said, this is all about suffering and the problem of suffering and finding the cause of suffering and finding a pathway out of suffering. Yes, the information is mind-boggling in some ways, but the point of it is to achieve a sense of equanimity, peace, love, compassion, wisdom, patience, generosity, ethics. I mean, this is what it's all about. And those things will turn around not only our suffering, but ultimately the suffering of the world. Yeah. So right now, all things appear to us as if they exist inherently or intrinsically, or as if they're independently self-existent. And because of that, we are unable to see that they are empty of intrinsic or independent self-existence because they appear like they are to us. And so it is not something that we are going to get just by our sense consciousness is experiencing the objects around us. When we've developed our consciousness to a sufficient point, and here we're really talking about our wisdom consciousness, which has to do with the mind. It has to do with our mental consciousness. And when we develop that to a sufficient point where we can perceive emptiness directly, non-conceptually, but directly, we'll be able to see all things as lacking inherent self-existence, and thus we will no longer see things as existing inherently. So by realizing the lack of inherent existence itself is excluded. This is what mutually exclusive means in this instance that we were talking about. When you realize directly the lack of inherent existence, then you will not realize inherent existence. You can't hold those two together at the same time.
To ask Brian Herman's old question of, well, then what does emptiness look like?
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that if we can. But we will get to that, Brian, for sure. We're going to get there.
Can I ask a different, maybe just a clarification on what
Yeah.
Kavita was saying? So in ultimate truth, everything is a dependent arising. And that's the only way anything.
In conventional truth, everything arises dependently. Ultimate truth is nothing exists.
It's sort of like the truth of relative existence.
Yeah, the truth of relative existence is that it's always arising dependently.
I mean, this is the
Ultimate existence is simply a lack of that. I
Okay.
mean, a lack of inherent existence.
Okay, so I guess so is conventional truth then merely all labels, period? Is everything that's conventionally true just a label?
Yes, and that's how it exists.
Okay, so now you take your book and you have labeled that as a book.
We humans do.
Okay, let me keep going.
Yeah.
What if I said, no, that's a TV? It's
Then
not a book.
that would be a mistaken conventional consciousness. That would be a deluded consciousness.
Okay, so
Well, you're getting ahead of this, but you're getting to a very important point.
Well, then I'll wait. That's fine. Go ahead.
You're getting to an extremely important point. You know, how do we decide what's conventionally true and what isn't conventionally true? And that goes to which we're going to get onto. If I don't know if we'll get to it today, but we're supposed to, but we may not. But it goes to the highest school, the Prasangika Madhyamaka school, which is a very, very, like Kavita said, it's like how do you say? A razor's edge The view of the Prasangika school is like a razor's edge, or Geshe Drakpa said, that view is like walking a tightrope. Yeah. Or some of the masters would say it's like walking on the edge of a sword.
Well, I mean,
To come to that view, how things actually exist.
Continue with.
We will continue, but we have to go there in steps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, let me just ask one other question then, or so if, and I'm trying to think how you just said this. So, ultimate reality or ultimate truth is nothing exists independently. Conventional reality or conventional truth is everything is a dependent arising. Correct me if I'm misstating what you said.
Yeah, that's that. You know, I would say ultimate truth is a complete and utter lack of any kind of independent self.
Okay, so in and maybe so independent arising. The way that we lessen our suffering is that dependent arising happens because there are certain causes and conditions at a specific time that create the opportunity for that dependent arising, and that we as a sentient being can influence those causes and conditions some way to I'm not sure what word I want to use, to modulate, input, whatever that those dependent arising events, right?
Right.
Okay, but that is still distinct from this idea that the lack of any independent existence is the path to lessening suffering.
The realization that things don't exist independently and that they do exist due to causes and conditions, and that those causes and conditions are choices that we're making. And we can make choices that will bring about the lessening of suffering. We can make choices that will bring about happiness and not suffering if we understand how that works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's the simple way of saying it, which is a good way of saying it. I mean, it's good to be simple at some point. So while our mind, because conventional truth and ultimate truth are mutually exclusive, while our mind is realizing the conventional reality of, say, our sense of I, at that moment, the ultimate reality of our sense of I cannot arise in our mind, and vice versa. If our mind realizes that, you know, say we have a direct conception of emptiness, and our mind realizes directly that there is no such thing as an independent self-existing I, that is a total, the I lacks that completely. Well, that at that time, then that conventional consciousness, which is grasping at the I, cannot arise, because those two are mutually exclusive. If you're experiencing if you're experiencing one of them in your mind, the other one will not be experienced, because they are mutually exclusive. Does that make sense?
Yes. What Geshe Drakpa would add here is when you raise up the heat, the cold goes down. When you raise up the cold, the heat.
That's right. That's right. That was the big example he gave. That's a very good example. Yeah. Heat and cold are mutually exclusive, as ultimate truth and conventional truth are mutually exclusive. Remember, ultimate truth is just lack of inherent independent self-existence.
Never mind. I'm not going to.
Okay. All right. Well, going on. When we reach a stage where we realize the final mode of existence of our I, which is its absence of inherent existence, its emptiness or ultimate truth, we cannot simultaneously have a mind that realizes the conventional reality of our I, even if we are correct about that conventional reality. Even if we realize the I is merely a label that we're giving to this whole group of aggregates that, you know, we call me, even if we conventionally understand that, while we are having a direct realization of the lack of any kind of inherent existence of the I, that conventional understanding cannot appear at the same time in that mind. This is why they say when these meditators are having a direct realization of emptiness, nothing conventionally appears to their mind whatsoever. Only emptiness, only a lack, basically, a lack is appearing to their mind. It's when they come out of that meditation, then they see this conventional reality that we all are aware of. However, they understand that it doesn't exist the way it appears, even though they see it the way we all see it. But they understand because they've had this direct realization of the lack of independent existence.
I'm gonna lay out a metaphor and see if this makes sense, see if I'm getting this. So let's say I'm a painter
Okay.
and I'm aware that I'm making decisions, so I decide the size of the painting, I obtain the materials for the canvas, I stretch the canvas, I buy the paints and I'm familiar with how these paints are formulated. And I get my brushes and I decide on my subject and I work through, and I am well aware during the process that I am creating the causes and conditions for a painting. And then I work on it, I work on it, and voila, one day I declare, the painting is done. I think I'll call it the Mona Lisa. Now, I have a subtle shift. Suddenly, all of the dependent arising is gone from my mind, and all I see is now the Mona Lisa.
All right. This is what we do. And then
Exactly.
everybody else, if they,
All everybody else ever sees is
and they'll grasp onto
the
that.
Mona Lisa, and everybody grabs onto it,
Yeah.
and we all conventionally agree it's the Mona Lisa.
And we'll make all kinds of judgments about it too,
Yeah.
oh, that's great, that sucks,
And
like
is
that.
okay? So it's sort of now. So thinking about this, if we similarly thought about just even using this lifetime, all of our life experiences from as far back as we can, our jobs, where we've lived, our diet, our schooling, places we've been, people we know, all the inputs, books we've read, all the stuff that's making the me that's arising right now. Similarly, we, just like the painting, we have drawn to us, or karma has put us in this
Our own time.
churning sea where we're meeting things that we have the karma to meet, and then we're making decisions of how to adopt them or reject them as they come in. And that's the me we're labeling. That's our Mona Lisa. Kind of like that.
Yeah, except that you were right. And we don't
So-
understand that the
so
me
we
is
forget.
continually,
Yeah,
it's a moving target. I mean,
Yeah.
it's continually in a process.
yeah.
But we try to grab onto it as if it's not, as if it exists.
So we kind of go,
And-
Covida.
And we get very
Finally,
excited.
I have you. And everyone goes, yeah, Covida.
Yeah, and this is why we get so bent out of shape if somebody criticizes us.
But if we actually, so this would sort of be one way to start to meditate on the illusory nature of Covida, so to speak.
Right.
Is like, how did this?
Right, we have to start with the concepts, there's no way. All we have right now are the
Yeah,
concepts, and
yeah.
so we need to use our conceptual mind. The conceptual mind is not necessarily a bad thing.
My thinking is that if I meditated, and I haven't done this yet, but if I did this sort of analytical meditation on all the ingredients going into Covida, and then sort of let that rub up against the fact that the Covida is merely a label being put on all this biological material and food and environment and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, and consciousness and
all that stuff. If I kind of somehow meditated on, wow, so we have just merely placed an identity label on this almost like never-ending geyser of changeability.
Right.
That's-
Yeah, that's actually, I really like that metaphor of a never-ending fountain or a never-ending geyser. I remember looking up when we were working a long time ago on one of our albums, which had to do with ancient languages and stuff, and it had to do with spirituality. And I was looking up just the English word, the roots of the English word God. And what came out of those roots was that it was this never ending, like a fountain. It just never stopped. So it was getting at something that is eternally existing and yet constantly in transformation, constantly moving, constantly changing. That was at the root of the word God, which I thought was fascinating, because that's certainly not the way it's thought about by many people. You know, it's a lot like Om, which is this beginningless, endless, transformational process of constant change. So it is impermanent. That's not a bad thing. That's what allows us to move and function, and otherwise everything would be frozen solid. So what we have to understand, and this goes back to your question, Brian, is that how do we use this never-ending geyser, never-ending fountain that is never and has no beginning, no end? How do we direct it? And what we direct it was the choices that we make, the causes and conditions that we ourselves, and we can only be responsible for our own choices, our own mental continuum, our own consciousness. And by putting the causes and conditions that will result in a state of being that is in alignment with interdependence and constant shifting and changing, well, that will then bring about a flowing, happy state that works and functions. When we're fighting that, when we're fighting this constantly transforming, flowing thing and trying to pin it down and lock it and say, it must be this way, I am this way, everybody I know has to be this way, the world should be this way, we are fighting a losing battle, because we are not working with the actual flow of existence itself. And so this is samsara. This is cyclic existence. We should not expect it to be nirvana or paradise or whatever you want to call it. This is what we're in, this state of mind and state of consciousness and state of matter that we're in, called samsara.
That we are in.
That we are all in.
We
are in this state
other
of mind.
beings in other realms are not in there.
Some other beings in some other realms, perhaps, but the one we know about, we're in this, which is kind of trying to lock down, hold it to be a certain way, and we get really angry if something happens that doesn't align with the way we want it, desire it, want to force it to be. So this is the cause of all the wars. This is the cause of all the suffering in the world.
Oh,
I mean, it's so obvious.
It's down to like the most minimal things, Christopher. I was grousing about Christopher's nephew's lack of domestic cleanliness. Well, I mean, that is my criteria. And I'm all wound up about it.
It's
Like,
easy to
how
get
could
lost.
somebody, not want to put their pillowcase on a pillow? Oh my God, what kind of animal is, I mean,
Oh,
it's just,
it comes down to logic,
it just
really.
gets crazy stuff, but
I think we should move on. Yeah, that's what I know we won't cover everything. So, okay. A mind that understands that our bodies are impermanent. They're constantly changing. I mean, we conceptually know this, but we grasp onto our bodies like we don't want them to change. We want it to stay a certain way. But a mind that understands that our bodies are impermanent will immediately stop grasping at them as if they were permanent. Which means when we're grasping onto our body and going, oh my God, the wrinkles, I can't stand it, I need to do something, I need a facelift, I need this, I need that. We are grasping onto our body as if it's some permanent thing. We don't want to let go of a particular, we don't want to just let it be what it is. So
expendable.
if we actually actually understood the impermanence of our bodies, we would immediately stop grasping at them as if they were permanent, because a permanent body and an impermanent body are two mutually exclusive phenomena. So mutually exclusive phenomena cannot coexist, and we are trying to make these things coexist. So the word impermanent and the word product are identical in all but their terminology. So a product is something that is impermanent. It is generated by causes and conditions. It will eventually, this book is a product. This book will eventually, due to causes and conditions, decay, get all bent out of shape. It eventually will, if nothing else is done to it, it will just disintegrate due to, elements. So it is impermanent. A product is impermanent, and something that is impermanent is necessarily a product. Something that is impermanent arises due to other causes and conditions. If it was permanent, it would mean that it could not have arisen due to any other causes and conditions. That would not make it permanent. Permanent must be permanent. So a rock actually is not permanent. A rock arises due to causes and conditions, and we all know that rocks eventually wear down, erode. They are not permanent. There is actually nothing that is permanent. So then those two minds can't exist together, permanent and impermanent. So if we understood that, that would go a long way toward eliminating the mind, our mind, that is attached to our body as if it was something permanent, simply because those two minds of permanent and impermanent cannot coexist. They are mutually exclusive. Geshe Tachitsaren says that understanding the process of impermanence, it's not like a switch. Our process of understanding impermanence is not going to be like a switch. All of a sudden, oh, we turn it on, the room's light. Oh yeah, I get it. It's going to be, it's going to happen slowly, with a lot of effort, with moments of realization gradually occurring more and more. Slowly, we'll be able to know the impermanence of our body, or our sense of I, which is the big one. And slowly, we'll lose our habit of grasping onto its permanence, as the opposing habit of impermanence becomes stronger. So that's how it works. We remove the mistaken views, mistaken consciousnesses, and replace them with unmistaken consciousness, the correct consciousness. And this is a gradual process. Now we get to grasping at inherent existence. And Geshe Dragpa Geluk used to say that grasping at inherent existence is similar to the way we get completely wrapped up in a movie, as if it's real. And we've all had this experience. We'll know we're watching a movie, but if it's a really good movie, all of a sudden, we're like really so wrapped up in it. We're really worried about the characters. We even will cry, or we'll become scared to death because something bad is going to happen. We get totally absorbed into the movie. And he said, grasping at inherent existence is like that. Here's the key, though. Does the director of the movie get just as wrapped up in it as the audience and feel that what is happening is real? Or does the process of spending hours and hours just for one short sequence mean that the director will always look at what is on the screen with some sense of distance from it? The director will be looking at some scene in a movie where we're just like totally absorbed and crying, and the director, he or she will say, boy, is the lighting just right? Could the camera angle have been different? And are the actors doing a good job acting? That's how the director sees it. But we get all wrapped up in it. We get wrapped up in it. The classic example of this that's used in Buddhism is that of a magician who's creating magic for an audience. And in a way, you could say movies are like magic.
I'm going to just throw out that in general, all media that you
Yeah. But
take
just
is like the same as a
absolutely,
movie.
absolutely.
Be it news, talk shows,
Absolutely.
podcasts, whatever. It's all just a movie like
Right,
appearance.
and we get all wrapped up in it. I'm
It's a
using
storyline.
something that's very neutral, which is a
It's
movie.
a good idea. I'm just noticing that
Let's
Wherever
keep it
there's a
neutral.
story, we get sucked in.
Okay, so because once we get sucked in, we're not neutral anymore.
Right.
Okay, so we're trying to keep this neutral. Okay. The magician knows the tricks that are being used, but the audience is fooled into thinking that the illusions are real. And that's a profound point, given what Kavita just said. So in a very similar way, enlightened beings see things very differently from how we see things. Enlightened beings being more like the director, and we're being more like the audience, just totally absorbed in it. A Buddha can see that things don't exist the way they appear. As long as we grasp at an object as inherently existing, as it having an inherent self-existence, its appearance and its actual existence will always be at odds with one another. And there will be never any room for those two to match up. The appearance that it's inherently self-existent and the actual way it exists, we won't be able to match those two up. But a Buddha, an enlightened being, can see what we're doing, can see what the problem is. Great masters such as Nagarjuna say that enormous fear arises as our sense of I and its real mode of existence. So like here's our sense of I, and here's the real mode of existence. Or let's say the sense of I is here, and the real mode of existence is here. And as they get closer and closer and closer, the sense of I gets very afraid because the real mode of existence is getting too close for comfort. And so it brings tremendous fear, like a fear that I'm not going to exist anymore. If this is going to destroy my I, my inherent self-existing I that I am so firmly attached to and grasping onto. So as we get closer to the actual way the I actually exists, the conventional sense of I diminishes. And because these two understandings are mutually exclusive, it's as if the I is disappearing, although this is not what is really happening. The false grasping at a sense of intrinsic self-existing identity creates fear as we feel that we're losing our identity and becoming non-existent. And of course, we become terrified. This goes back to your observation, Brian, when you said, how come so many people, after they come to Buddhism for a while, they're not attracted to it? It's this, and this we discussed it previously. It's this fear that arises, like, I'm not sure I like where this is going because I like grasping onto my inherent self-existence. And I don't want to hear something else because that may mean I don't exist. And that's this fear arises. And it's, and of course they say the Bodhisattva path is a courageous one because we have to actually walk through that fear to the other side and realize that it wasn't a problem.
I'm just going to say, really, in general sense, Christopher and I have been reading on a parallel topic about how the mental continuum works and the facets of the mental continuum and its perpetuity, if you will. And in a way, I feel like I'm built by that study. I feel like I'm building a lifeboat.
Actually,
how I'm going to understand my existence at the time when I am able to, achieve this sort of more, let's just say a realization of how I don't exist and how I do exist, that I can feel that this study about how the consciousness operates is helpful in terms of building.
What Kavita is talking about is something we are going to do in this series of classes. But after we're through with the two truths, we're going to add this. What this is it's called Buddhist psychology, and it's a model of the mind, the model of consciousness, how consciousness works, and this is extremely helpful.
Just for those of you that don't know, we're just following the topics as Geshe Nima suggests them. So there's no.
Right. So we were as part of this, we're opening this up with the shamatha practice, right? Just to get this awareness, this vivid, alert awareness that can hold an object of meditation without fluctuating, without being distracted. We're just experiencing shamatha as in baby steps. Now, what I want to do is add this model of the mind, the Buddhist model of the mind, the Buddhist psychology, you could say. So and it's going to be slow baby steps because it's like anything. The reason why Buddhism can be so difficult for us is that the concepts are concepts that we don't have in our mind already. When somebody, if I pick up a book, you go, oh, sure, I know what that is. You have it in your consciousness already. You know what a book is. You know what it stands for. But if you had no idea what this thing was, and the words and the concepts I was presenting to you to try to explain what this thing was, you had no idea what those concepts meant. They needed to be defined very clearly for you. It would be quite difficult to understand what this is. And that's the process that we are going through in Buddhist psychology and in trying to understand these profound topics. We don't have a reference for it. Since beginningless time, we haven't had a reference for it. We need to develop that reference. We need to build that up within our own consciousness. And it's actually fascinating, really. So we will get into that. And that will be an adjunct to all the things we're studying.
Pointing that out, that there is, a method to the madness.
Yeah.
That, we're not gonna all be left at the precipice of annihilation, scared to death to go any further as Buddhist practitioners.
So Geshe Tashit Tsering says that we've clung to our false sense of I since beginningless time. So it's only natural that it would be hard for us to give it up. It feels like we're becoming nothing when all that is happening is that the appearance of the object and its actual mode of existence are becoming closer. The fear is a symptom of the fact that conventional truth and ultimate truth are mutually exclusive. Now we're going to get into something that is a kind of, we don't really have much of a basis for understanding this, and so hopefully we will. So even emptiness has a conventional truth nature and an ultimate truth nature. Even emptiness. Conventional truth and ultimate truth are, as we said, mutually exclusive. All phenomena, every phenomena, has these two mutually exclusive aspects, even emptiness itself. It sounds really strange to us that emptiness can have a conventional truth nature and an ultimate truth nature, because after all, isn't emptiness the ultimate nature of reality? Isn't that what emptiness is? What we have to understand is that emptiness can have a conventional truth nature, not that emptiness is a conventional truth. And this gets back to your question of what is conventional existence? And we will get to that later, probably not today, but we will get to it. One way of defining conventional truth is that which appears in a manner discordant with its real existence. That which appears in a manner discordant with its real existence. This real existence of this book is that it is a continually, dependently arising, shifting, changing, constantly coming into existence. It will go out of existence, and it comes into existence due to, as we said, infinite causes, going all the way out to the far reaches of the universe. And everything's like that. It's mind-boggling. So how does this apply to emptiness? All phenomena have both truths, which means that for every existing object, every existing phenomenon, there is an emptiness and a base to the emptiness. So for instance, this book is the base for the emptiness of this book. But then we also posit the emptiness, it's the base for the ultimate truth of the book. The ultimate truth is that it has no inherent existence whatsoever. It's completely lacking in that. Or the table is the base for what the ultimate truth of the table is, that the table has no inherent existing nature whatsoever. It's completely lacking in that. For emptiness, there is emptiness as a base, but then we must also posit the emptiness of emptiness as its ultimate truth. Just like the book is the base, we posit the emptiness of the book as its ultimate truth. Emptiness is the base, and then we posit the emptiness of emptiness as its ultimate truth. So what is that emptiness base? What is the base that we're talking about with emptiness? Our conceptual knowledge of emptiness is itself a conventional truth. Our conceptual knowledge, our conceptual understanding, what we're learning about emptiness, that itself is a conventional truth. It's arising due to causes and conditions. And we are becoming slowly, we're beginning to understand the meaning of emptiness, but we're still using our conventional conceptual mind to do that. At this stage, even though we can intellectually understand what emptiness is referring to, a lack of inherent existence, we don't actually see or think of emptiness itself as something that lacks inherent existence. As a conventional truth, the correct conceptual meaning of emptiness serves as the basis for its own ultimate truth, its own emptiness of inherent self-existence. To a deluded mind, a mind that has not had the direct realization of emptiness and only has this conventional understanding of emptiness, emptiness itself appears as if it must be truly existent, that as if it's something that we could see, or it can be experienced in some kind of tangible way. You know, some of us have even said this, well, you know, what does emptiness look like? What does it feel like? What is it? You know, we're constantly grasping at, it must be something, when in actuality, it's simply a lack. It's a lack. So the base of the ultimate truth of emptiness, the conventional base, is our conceptual understanding of it. Does that make sense? Just like our conceptual understanding of this book and how it arises due to causes and conditions serves as the base for being able to understand that it has no inherent self-existent nature whatsoever. It completely
it's
lacks.
like you're saying our understanding of emptiness is a dependent arising.
Yes, and that is the conventional.
That's the base.
Base for emptiness, yes. So that's what it's kind of a strange thing, but you know, ultimate truth and conventional truth are differentiated only because of the mind that apprehends them. An ultimate mind analyzing emptiness ascertains the object's ultimate truth, while a conventional mind apprehends the object's conventional truth. Because those two minds are mutually exclusive but one entity, because those two truths are mutually exclusive but one entity, understanding emptiness eliminates the misunderstanding that emptiness inherently exists. So we'll leave that there to think about, because it's like, whoa, okay. Let me get my mind around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing much to say.
Basically, our conventional understanding of emptiness is its conventional truth. And then a direct realization of emptiness, that it's actually just a lack of inherent existence, is the ultimate truth.
It's like the emperor has no clothes, sort of.
A little, yeah, kind of.
I was just thinking, you know, we can spend all these years and years studying emptiness and reading about it and contemplating it. And then, you know, we have this direct realization and we go, oh my God, there's something there. It's sort of like, I see that look on your face, Susie. You're going, yeah.
All right, now we're going to talk about.
Say something that hurt.
It's just going back to the Geshe days where we're all sitting there going, it just takes a while to get those words which don't ever get there to give you a little bit of a.
Right. It's like I said, we have no foundation within us anywhere that's like helping us with this. It's This is new territory that we have to build up slowly, and we have to.
It's almost like the opposite for me. You have to let go of it all slowly and just don't look for anything, and it's there.
Well, it's both, actually. You're right. It's both.
You're-
It's both. We need the concepts. We couldn't do it without the concepts because of where we're at.
I wonder, though, maybe, but yeah.
But then
I mean,
after
let's say, for example, Susie may have studied these concepts at great length in many previous lifetimes.
absolutely,
So she's,
she's ready.
she's doing a different thing.
So for those of us who are not as educated as the others here, I just wanted to ask a slightly different question. So you've talked about this conventional truth, ultimate truth cannot coexist.
They are mutually exclusive.
Mutually exclusive.
But they are two isolates in one entity.
And in that way,
Okay, but
they actually do coexist.
As two isolates within one entity.
That's a big difference.
Any phenomenon has both ultimate truth and conventional
It's
truth.
like oil and water. They coexist, but they.
okay, but if your consciousness is focusing on conventional truth, then it doesn't focus on ultimate truth.
Right.
So is it that your consciousness in somebody like us just switches rapidly, can back and forth between the conventional and ultimate truths as they're thinking about these things or cogitating on these things or conscious, I don't know what you would call it, on these things? I'm just trying to figure out how we.
Okay. So let's use the book again. So conventionally, we understand that the book is a complete dependent arising in every way imaginable. That's a conventional understanding. Then also we understand that must mean then that this book has no actual independent self-existence of its own. That is still a conceptual consciousness. We still haven't had a direct realization of the emptiness of the book. Not direct. What we're having is a conceptual understanding that the way the book exists actually must be that it doesn't have any independent self-existence, because if it is a dependent arising, and we can logic that out really well, that there's nothing about this book whatsoever that comes from the book's own side independently, then we can logic out that then the book must therefore, its existence must be independent of any kind, it must be lacking any kind of independent self-existence. That is still a conceptual base. This is what I'm saying. It's the conceptual base for the ultimate realization, direct realization.
So is the conceptual base still a conventional?
Yeah, you could say it's still conventional. Yes.
And so
it's a conventional understanding of emptiness, but not a direct realization of emptiness.
And the ultimate truth is only through direct realization.
That's right. Same as the ultimate truth of this book would only come through a direct realization of the ultimate truth of this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Along this line, let me make sure I have this right. A consciousness that apprehends anything is, by definition, apprehending conventionality. Any appearance of anything to a consciousness.
Anything you can apprehend, basically, is, as we've said before, there is no existence other than conventional existence.
Okay, that's what I would.
There is no existence other than conventional existence.
This kind of this is sort of hiding behind the curtain of Brian's last question, I thought.
This does not mean that this existence we're experiencing is the only conventional existence there is. This is our particular conventional existence. But for instance, a Buddha has a conventional existence as well. But that conventional existence is appearing differently to the Buddha than it appears to us. But that's still a conventional existence, because conventional existence is what enables any of us to move and communicate and function and interact and have interdependent relationships. Ultimate existence is the direct realization that none of this exists inherently the way it appears to us, the way we think that it does, the way that we grasp onto it as if it does. So ultimate existence is merely a direct realization of a lack that we didn't realize was there.
So how do you think the Buddha does this?
Well, you have to you have to get yourself, you have to get, this is why the meditation is very important. You have to get to these very deep levels of the mind.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm asking, that's not quite what I'm asking. I'm asking if you are a Buddha and you have this direct realization of emptiness, and you now completely, I guess, understand, grasp, believe it, I don't know what adjective to use, that nothing exists independently, but you still have to live in a conventional truth world. How are these two things? I mean, for us, as Kavita said, everything we're doing is still conventional truth at the end of the day, because none of us have this direct realization. But once you've had that realization, how do you go between the realization and the conventional world?
Well, what they say is that when you have actually achieved that level of enlightenment, actual enlightenment of a Buddha, what happens is that you can, at the same time, you can perceive simultaneously, you can perceive conventional reality, and simultaneously you can perceive the lack of any independent self-existence to that conventional reality, which is not something that anyone other than someone who has removed all of their afflictive and cognitive obscurations, which is what a Buddha has removed, an enlightened being has removed. Only then can you perceive both of those simultaneously. Otherwise, you're going back and forth and back and forth. Even the meditators who have direct realizations of emptiness have not yet achieved enlightenment, cannot perceive conventional existence and ultimate existence simultaneously. Well, there is no ultimate existence. They cannot perceive the ultimate nature of conventional existence directly. They just go back and forth. In meditation, every conventional existence disappears for them, and they are simply experiencing or having a direct realization of the lack of any kind of inherent existence. When they come out of that meditation, they perceive the world similar to the way we perceive it, and yet they know that things don't exist inherently the way they appear. However, a Buddha who has removed all afflictive and cognitive obscurations both perceives things the way we perceive them, and at the same time can directly realize the emptiness of that, the ultimate nature of that. This is what they say. Having not experienced it myself, what can else I say but what they say, you know? And so we have to do this for ourselves. And we have to use the concepts, and we have to use our logic. If none of this, for instance, if I go through this process, and I'm sure if all of you do, and you look and you really realize, all right, this book, okay, this is simply, we call it book, we designate it book with our minds. And then everything physically that this book is made up of comes from all different causes. And you can, like I said, if you take it out, if you see how everything is interconnected, including like the tree that the paper came from, you can see this takes you out to the far reaches of the universe and beyond. So everything, this doesn't exist other than a dependent arising. We can really logic that out. And so then through our own logic, we say, well, therefore, this thing must not actually have any kind of independent self-existence. And that's where we start. That would be the conventional basis for emptiness, which then has to be, there is a direct realization of the ultimate, the emptiness of emptiness, you might say.
One of the easiest analogies that I found really helpful, because I'm a bit thick when it comes to mentally getting everything, I go round and round and round, is the ocean and the waves. The waves are part of the ocean, come out of the ocean, rise, make big gestures, and then go back into the ocean.
Right.
Which is still, and you know, deeper down, it's a stillness and a infiniteness. And to me, that can make me see myself waving. And when I do the waves and I get carried off into all my two truth things, I can sometimes catch it and be like, this is just me being a wave. Let's widen out and go back into the ocean.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've found that analogy really helpful too. And we have to recognize waves can be quite powerful things. They can be very destructive.
As can thoughts and
Yes,
emotions.
right. So it's a pretty good analogy. And of course, analogies only go so far.
Well,
Yeah.
I love the ocean in general as an analogy because
Yeah, they use it.
currents, hot and cold currents and tides, and it points towards causes and conditions that are huge. And yet, weirdly, somehow our participation is creating the currents, not only for us, but for others. So there's this like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess, you
whatever.
know, we can have a few more minutes of discussion here. I won't go any further. Next time we'll talk about how things actually exist. How do we determine that something actually exists? And this goes to the Prasangika, the highest school, most subtle school of thought, which Tsongkhapa is
It's really fun. I mean, let's jump
Nagarjuna.
ahead. It's kind of, this points to, this is in reference to Brian Herman's question. In our lineage, they just have a really quick way of saying, look, conventional existence is only accurate if essentially two or more people agree.
There have to be 3
And-
points, but we
three
don't.
or more people agree that the book is the book.
Let's not. No. It's
That's
not.
why if you walk into the room and say, no, it's a television, they would say, no, it's a book.
Right. There has to be an agreement, and is this
That's why it's called
specific?
conventional.
It's specific kinds of agreements, and we have to get into a little more detail than just a quick.
Well, I know,
But we will get to
some of
that.
us like the.
Want a little hint, right? We want a preview,
We like
but
a
we
little
will get to
overview.
that next time because there will be time for that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we can probably. It's 12:29. We can do if there aren't more.
Either Arthur
Observations?
got a self-driving truck or he's at a.
You must be parked, Arthur.
He's parked.
So, shall we do the closing prayer then, Kavita?
We should.
Yeah.
Okay, we've heard lots of interesting ideas, all of which are meant to make us more happy and to be participating in the creation of happiness or the arising of happiness for all sentient beings.
Even though it may seem like it's making us
But
confused.
that is the point. It is not to become confused. The point is to liberate our happiness, our joy for ourselves and others. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. May the view of emptiness, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. May anyone who merely sees or hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me, be instantly freed from all sufferings and abide in happiness forever. It is only through the kindness of my Guru that I have met the peerless teachings of the Buddha. Thus, I dedicate all merits so that all sentient beings in the future may be guided by kind and holy Gurus. And that'll do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, Christopher.
Yeah,
Thank you, Christopher.
I'm so glad that you
Kavita.
were.
Happy October 20th, everybody.
I'm so glad that you're all attending and keeping up with this because it keeps me motivated to keep going. And it's just a great thing all around. So thank you all. And we will talk to you later. I will stop recording.